Hello, and welcome to Road to Wilds, a Monster Hunter Retrospective. Because the title we'll be talking about today is the direct follow-up to Monster Hunter Freedom 2, it may be best to watch the previous episode first, which can be viewed by clicking here. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the show. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, the West's last hurrah for Monster Hunter titles on the PSP. Japanese players would get one final PSP title in the form of Monster Hunter Portable 3rd in 2010. And just a quick aside about Portable 3rd, I've had comments and requests asking if I would cover Portable 3rd, and while I intend to cover it eventually, it will not be covered in the Road to Wilds series. For Road to Wilds, I want to cover the journey myself and my fellow hunters in the West undertook when the series first started, all the way to the most recent game. Part of the Road to Wilds for me is revisiting these games I played many years ago and reevaluating how they hold up today. Because I never played Monster Hunter G or Portable 3rd, they would not have the same connection to me as the officially released Western titles. That said, I do intend to do a follow-up series once I finish the Road to Wilds that covers the Japanese exclusive titles along with the Monster Hunter spin-off games we've gotten over the years, so look forward to that. Anyways, back to Freedom Unite. Freedom Unite marks the culmination of Monster Hunter's Generation 2. As such, it may be viewed by fans as one of the many peaks the series has reached over its lifetime. Freedom Unite was released as Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G in Japan on March 27, 2008. About a year and a few months later, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite was released in June of 2009 for the US, EU, and Australia. It was a busy year in games back in 2009 with games like Dragon Age Origins, Borderlands, and Demon's Souls also releasing in the action RPG space. While the PSP was officially supported up until 2014, it's safe to say that around 2009 to 2010, the console was beginning to show its age. That said, Freedom Unite / Portable 2nd G knocked it out of the park. According to Capcom's own numbers, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite sold 3.8 million units worldwide and is the company's 26th best-selling game. Because Freedom Unite is a direct follow-up to Monster Hunter Freedom 2, I thought it would be appropriate to craft the questions I will address in this video with that notion in mind. Questions such as: what prominent additions does Freedom Unite add to what Freedom 2 established? What are some of the flaws of Freedom Unite? Would Freedom Unite make a good title for newer Monster Hunter fans to revisit today? And finally, what are my closing thoughts on the PS2 and PSP Monster Hunter games? Like my videos before, my answer to the questions and overall impressions will be drawn from my playthrough of the high-rank Gathering Hall and Neko Quest. And like always, these conclusions will be based on my own subjective opinion. Now, for some of my personal background with Freedom Unite. Like I mentioned before, 2009 was a busy year for games, so I don't think I put as much time into Freedom Unite back in the day as I did with titles like Freedom 1 and 2. That said, I do remember loving the time I did spend with the game. I think by this point, I was mostly playing the Monster Hunter games solo since I couldn't play online with the PSP back then. As a result, I had to really sharpen my skills to take on some of the more fearsome hunts the game throws your way. I also like the new box art monster, Nargacuga. While I like Tigrex a lot, I really like the stealthy and sleek jungle cat vibes of Nargacuga. And like many of my other favorite monsters, his armor and weapons are usually really great in the games he appears in. Speaking of things that are great, let's talk about some of the great new features Freedom Unite adds to what Freedom 2 established. Let's get Boogie in here. Reserve, select Comrade, Boogie. Oh, wow, Boogie! Hero. Hero cat. One of the biggest new features to Freedom Unite is the Feline Comrade system. While this feature evolves and gets more complex in future titles, Freedom Unite is where having a faithful feline hunting at your side first debuts. The large feline bagwoman. You know what? What's the official title? Well, the large bagwoman who sells you items is called the Peddling Granny. I couldn't find a name for the woman who deals with felines, so we'll just call her the Feline Peddling Granny. Anywho, in Freedom Unite, the Feline Peddling Granny will occasionally offer to let you hire feline comrades instead of feline chefs. The felines have a variety of colorations, temperaments, attack styles, and attack preferences. Coloration, as far as I can tell, is purely aesthetic and doesn't affect their performance in any way. Temperament determines the basic behavior of the comrade. For example, aims large, presumably prioritizes large monsters over small ones. There are some that are rather cryptic, like brave, cowardly, scrapper, and average. While I didn't know what these meant during my playthrough, I did find this handy chart on the fandom wiki, which breaks down the differences between each temperament. Attack style determines what type of damage the comrade deals, the two options being strike and slash. Finally, attack preference refers to whether the comrade will attack with its weapon, bombs, or not at all. While I did try an all-bomb cat early on, I could tell pretty quickly that the comrade's friendly fire would bother me, so I switched to the cat, the goat, the legend, Boogie. Pop back. Beginning to sharpen. Oh, Boogie! Look at that. Close. Get him, Boogie. Yeah, Boogie! He's done it! And he's healing me? Yo, MVP over here, Boogie, everybody. Oh, whoa, instant. Oh no, Boogie. I can't live on without you. Boogie, I'm screwed. Help me. Help me, Boogie. Oh, wow, Boogie. Hero. Oh no. Boogie, help me. Help me, Boogie. Please. I beg you. Boogie, come on. Oh, I'll just go to sleep again. Boogie. Now's your time, sir. No, you hit him. Alright, whatever. Nice, Boogie. Let's go. See how long this lasts. Yeah, thank you, Boogie. Sing the song of your people. Alright, you know what I'm thinking. Get out of here. I'm sorry, Boogie. Yeah, aside from having to deal with both of them at the same time, this isn't too bad. Oh, look, you just took out the champ. He's bleeding. Alright, Boogie, thanks for taking the hits, bro. Oh, Boogie, you were dodging stuff there, man. Boogie, you can't just sit there and dance and then get hit by the charge, brother. Makes us look bad. I do enough of that on our own. Over the course of my playthrough, I unlocked various comrade skills for Boogie. First, I dabbled with giving Boogie healing abilities, but I eventually gravitated toward giving him the paralysis status, as I found Boogie's healing attempts got interrupted more often than they succeeded. While Boogie's paralyzes never drastically turned the tide of a hunt, they were still exciting and fun when he managed to land them. Lastly, there is the growth option for your comrade. This lets you increase stats for the comrades you have hired. For Boogie, I prioritized defense, as I figured he wasn't going to be doing a lot of damage. While it was great having another ally for a monster I was hunting to target, I did have some inconveniences when it came to trying to draw the targeted monster to traps or map hazards. But the pros definitely outweigh the cons with feline comrades, and I'd say it's one of the funnest new features added to Freedom Unite. While Freedom Unite isn't the dramatic jump in content that Freedom 1 to Freedom 2 is, it still has some noteworthy additions to its overall pool of content. Freedom Unite sports the sleek and stealthy Nargacuga as its flagship box art monster. Nargacuga would go on to be a prominently featured monster in many games after Freedom Unite, and it would also get a number of different variant species such as Green Nargacuga, Lucent Nargacuga, and Silver Wind Nargacuga. Nargacuga's armor and weapons are usually pretty solid choices in the games he appears in. The armor has a sort of ninja vibe to it, boasting evasive and sometimes stealthy skills, while the weapons tend to have great sharpness and affinity. Nargacuga isn't one of my favorite monsters. I think he's an excellent addition to the roster and is definitely worthy of his flagship status, though. Most of the other new monsters to Freedom Unite are variants. However, there is one noteworthy exception. Lavasioth debuts for the West in Freedom Unite, but what I wasn't aware of prior to making this video is Lavasioth was actually a monster who originated from Monster Hunter Frontier. Does that make me like Lavasioth anymore? Not really. Okay, well maybe slightly. Anyway, back to the new monsters. While not new to the franchise, Yamatsukami is new to the West with its introduction in Freedom Unite. Yamatsukami debuted in Monster Hunter 2 and was absent in Freedom 2, so Freedom Unite is the first chance Western hunters had to fight this odd monster. Now onto the variants. Freedom Unite introduces the variants Green Congalala, Copper Blungonga, Plum Daimyo Hermitar, and Terra Shogun Sienitar. On the more dangerous side of things, we have variants of Furious Rajang, Rusted Kushala Daura, and Yukonlos, the Cool Ranch variant to Akantor's Nacho Cheese. Last but possibly least, we have the Vespoid Queen and King Shakalaka. While I didn't fight King Shakalaka in my playthrough of Freedom 2 or Freedom Unite, according to the wiki, he was given large monster status in Freedom Unite. So good on you, King. Slay, King. Slay. While I have this as the last of the major additions or improvements to Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, I was very tempted to put it first. The quality of life additions to Monster Hunter Freedom Unite from previous titles are so huge that it's difficult going back to the other games in the franchise after getting used to them here, and in other future games. What quality of life additions, you ask? How about the power to buy things directly to your storage box? That do anything for you? That's convenience, Holmes. Tenacious D references aside, we also have the ability to send items you gather on the farm directly to your box if your inventory is full. Not only that, you can combine items directly from your storage box in Freedom Unite. And the last major one I'll mention is the ability to send items from quest rewards directly to your storage box. Take the reward. Boom. Oh, I can send it in the box. That's new. I think, right? That's new? That wasn't in Freedom 2, right? One of the only features I wish they had addressed was the equipment saving feature. Your decorations do not save to your equipment sets in Freedom Unite, which is kind of a bummer.
Oh my god!
But not a huge inconvenience to work around. Overall, Freedom Unite has a drastic and much needed improvement to the quality of life features over every other game prior in the franchise. While Freedom Unite has some wonderful additions to an already winning formula that was Monster Hunter Freedom 2, the game is not without its drawbacks. These are mostly inherited from Monster Hunter Freedom 2, but it's still worth talking about them. He's really messing with me. Shoot. Camera bad? Yeah, the camera is still kind of stinky. Moving on. Okay, for real though. I'm tired of bringing it up, you're probably tired of me mentioning it, but like Disney-era Star Wars, we all still have to deal with it. So, overall, the camera seems unchanged since Monster Hunter Freedom 2. The camera still gets hung up on almost the exact same spots, and it still has the tendency to freak out when it gets pushed up against something it doesn't like. Kind of like me, actually. Without retreading everything I've said in the past retrospectives, I'll just play a few noteworthy clips from my playthrough. Oh, Bullfinger, you interrupted Boogie. Yes. Alright, camera bad. Camera very bad. It's rotating. I think it's rotating. Camera bad. That's gonna hurt. Yep. Yikes, dude. Camera, please. Camera bad. Bad camera. Now he's going for me. Oh, camera bad. Now the controls actually made it out slightly better from Freedom 2 to Freedom Unite. The odd dropped inputs that I complained about in Freedom 2 have all but disappeared in Freedom Unite, so that's a plus. But yeah, most things in the camera and control department are pretty identical to Freedom 2, for better or worse. Maybe I'm misremembering my time playing Freedom 2. But I felt like the small monsters in Freedom Unite were a bit more, well, frustrating to deal with. Kind of like how they were in Monster Hunter 1. And Freedom 1. Oh no. This is hell! Here are some of my reactions from my playthrough. Did they make the small monsters more aggro? Almost feels like they did. Yeah, these Cephalots feel like a lot more annoying. Could just be me overthinking it. Cephalos. You are approaching Monster Hunter 1 and Freedom 1 levels of annoying right now. Yeah, I wonder if they made the small monsters like more aggressive because you have feline comrades now. Where? Oh, maybe I'm misremembering, but they weren't that bad in Freedom 2. That's a big Shogun Scimitar. Yeah, so the Eoprey are annoying. Yeah, I want to say they've tuned up the aggro on the small monsters. If anyone else has gone back and played Freedom 2 to this back to back, let me know if you think it's the same way, because it definitely feels like it. Alright. Please give me 4 Thunder Sacks for this, so I don't have to fight Kazoo again. Not a 1. Yep, I'm going there. For the first time in the retrospective series, I'm finally confronting item drop rates and the desire sensor. Disclaimer, this is actually not a huge drawback, just a bit of a nitpick, and I wanted to have 3 bullet points in the script instead of 2 for drawbacks, so I just thought I'd mention this. I'll consider myself fairly lucky in my past playthroughs of Monster Hunter 1, Freedom 1, and Freedom 2. I didn't have to go crazy with farming and relying on silly drop rates to make and upgrade my armor and weapons. In Freedom Unite, however, I finally ran into the RNG brick wall a few times. Most notably, while trying to upgrade my Devil Slicer, I needed Thunder Sacks from high-rank Kezu. According to the wiki and other sources I could find online, Thunder Sacks have a drop rate of around 20% in quest rewards. Relative to the other item drops that Kezu has, that's on the higher end percent-wise. Now, if you go on and watch my Oops All Kezu stream that's saved on my channel, you can see why I was in disbelief after going over 2 hours and not getting a single Thunder Sack. Alright, please, Desire Sensor. Please give me the Thunder Sacks I so desire. I beg you. Bring me peace from this Kezu. At this rate, I probably could make Kezu armor. Dude, okay, what the hell? Wyvern Stones. Am I just like... I guess maybe I should kill him. That's the only thing I can think. I'm about to look it up. Because this is three Kezu kills, 2 regular and 1 red in a row where I haven't gotten a single Thunder Sack. Yeah, if I don't get any in this quest, I will just... I might do like 1 run at the volcano. Just 1 run through there. Oh, I get Carbolite out the wazoo though. I might do one volcano run and then just call it, because I can't take any more Kezu right now. I don't know. I'm so confused. Yeah, I'll do some research, see if I can find out what the deal is. Like, maybe you just can't get him on Kezu. Don't make any sense, yeah, Silver Crown. But, that's upsetting. I was starting to question if they dropped off Kezu at all. Of course, as soon as I hunted Kezu off-stream, I got the 4 I needed the first try. I go for 1 more attempt off-camera, because I was salty, and, yeah, I get 4. Here's a clip.
Just take a look at this.
I lack the Desire Sensor. When it rains, it pours. Now, I know my experience gathering Thunder Sacks probably pales in comparison to some of the other hunters' farming endeavors, but it's interesting it happened here in Freedom Unite of all places. Oh, I just gave up on upgrading my Azure Rathalos lance after dealing with the horrible drop rate of the Azure Los Tails, and it needed 10. Anyway, this is overall a nitpick that you could make for just about any game in the series, so don't take all this too seriously. At the end of the day, I kind of just wanted to vent about the time I had hunting a bunch of Kezus. Oh, share some of your worst farming experiences in the comments. Let us cling together in our shared suffering at the hands of the Desire Sensor. With the negatives out of the way, let's talk about some of the reasons why Monster Hunter Freedom Unite is a great title for newer fans who've never played some of the classic games to start with. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite is arguably one of the best remembered games in the franchise because it brings back pretty much everything that was featured in any of the games prior. I believe I'm correct in saying this, but Freedom Unite has every monster, map, weapon, and armor set that were in the previous games, perhaps with a few exceptions for things like limited events and such. That said, a fan wishing to explore the first and second generation titles could not go wrong with giving Monster Hunter Freedom Unite a go. It's funny how it never occurred to me until making this video, but Monster Hunter Freedom Unite did what Monster Hunter Generations tried to do, but actually nailed it. That is, they brought back everything that came before it. Whereas with Generations, features like swimming had to be cut, so that automatically cut some monsters, maps, armors, and weapons. Rip my boy Cedius. That is all to say, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite is probably the best anthology title we'll likely ever get for the Monster Hunter series. And to me, that's something really special. While it's great to celebrate all the amazing things that Freedom Unite brought to the franchise going forward, it's interesting to look back at some things that haven't been seen since, at least in the mainline series. While the Monster Hunter Frontier original Lavassioth would return in games like Generations Ultimate and World, its sleepy chicken cousin, Hypnocatrice, was not so lucky, only appearing in Freedom 2 and Freedom Unite. Furthermore, while Bulldrome would go on to be featured in other games, Vespoid Queen would only appear in Freedom Unite. And last but not, well, maybe least, is King Shakalaka. King Shakalaka has only appeared in Freedom Unite, and I'd be surprised if we ever see him in the series again. As far as maps that do not return from after Freedom Unite, we have the Great Forest, the Old Swamp, the Old Jungle, and the Old Volcano, just to name a few. While Generations and Generations Ultimate are fantastic games, they don't bring back everything. So Freedom Unite is the best way for you to play anything from the first two generations of Monster Hunter. Freedom Unite is beloved in many of the old hunters' heart, so it would make sense that there is a lot of fan support for keeping it playable online and up to date. While I don't focus on the multiplayer for the Road to Wilds, I do think it's worth noting here, especially for new fans that are interested in returning to old Monster Hunter titles. HunsterMonter.net is a site I found from a quick Google search that appears to be a good place to connect with fellow hunters and enjoy Freedom Unite and the other PSP titles. I had heard that an online scene still existed for titles like Freedom Unite, so it was good to see it is so readily available. One thing I do have first-hand experience with is the Monster Hunter Freedom Unite Complete fan-made patch. At a viewer's request, I decided to give this patch a shot, and I was not disappointed. I'll link the site below, so I won't go into too much detail, but the patch is great for all the quality of life changes and the ability to play all the inaccessible event quests. While I'd say you could easily still enjoy Freedom Unite without the complete patch, I would still highly recommend it if you were ever interested in returning to Freedom Unite. To finish off Generations 1 and 2 for the Western Monster Hunter titles, I thought it would be appropriate to reflect on the road that brought us here. So, let's take a quick look back at the previous titles. While the game is pretty unpolished and rough around the edges compared to Freedom Unite, the game still had its charm. It's funny to think Monster Hunter 1 is the only home console release up to the point we're at with Freedom Unite. The analog control inputs, along with slightly higher fidelity graphics, definitely make it an oddity compared to the PSP titles. And lastly, as of the making of this video, there is no way to access the online content for the North American release of Monster Hunter 1. All that said, there was still enjoyment to be had in clearing the village quest and going back to where it all began. Freedom 1 is where I think the franchise finally got some footing in the West. Sure, the franchise didn't really start to explode until around 4U to World in the West, but Freedom 1 felt like a good second step for the fledgling series. Freedom 1 is our first outing on the PSP, and with that come many control changes. Gone are the analog stick inputs, so we get button inputs, which would become the norm for the franchise going forward. The Feline Kitchen, Farm, and Training School all make their first appearance in Monster Hunter Freedom 1. We also get our first monster variants in Monster Hunter Freedom 1, which is a core staple to padding out the roster. Finally, we get the introduction of G-Rank for the first time in Western titles. Oh, and Garuga's here. Generation 2 of Monster Hunter. While we didn't get the proper Monster Hunter 2, this was the next best thing. Easily some of the most notable additions are the weapons. Fan favorites like the longsword and bow make their debut here. Freedom 2 has a new home village in the form of Poki. Also, most of the maps in Freedom 2 are completely original from the prior roster of maps. We also get the introduction of the formidable Elder Dragons. And finally, we arrive back to Freedom Unite. Freedom Unite is a fantastic title, and I think I speak for a lot of fans when I say it is easily one of the peaks of the franchise. While it is only slightly hampered down by some of the flaws of the previous titles, it easily overcomes these minor blemishes and truly shines as one of the greatest achievements of the Monster Hunter series. With ongoing fan support and literal hundreds of hours of content to dive into, either solo or with friends, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite is an excellent game for veterans like myself and beginner hunters alike. With the PSP titles behind us, our road forward takes us to uncertain waters. The next league on our journey takes us to the first home console entry since the first game on the PS2, and on the Wii no less. How will the franchise fare in this new aquatic generation? Will the drastic new direction be sink or swim? Find out on the next installment of Road to Wilds, a Monster Hunter Retrospective. And thank you for watching.